We have a delegate here today who represents the Turkish government, the ruling AKP and President Erdogan. A representative, in other words, of a party and a president that used the democratic process to get into power, only to then systematically destroy the very democratic instrument.
So what is your idea of democracy if you don't even want to share the rostrum with somebody who thinks differently than you do? How do you recognize if somebody is a Democrat? I am a member of the AKP, which you call undemocratic. What's your reasoning for doing so? Is it because of the state of emergency since the coup of last year? Why is it that Western powers can do something against terrorism, while in Turkey, which had over 5 times as many victims of terrorism over the last 30 years than all the Western countries together? Or is it because terror organizations which are terrorizing Turkey for decades, that they are being funded by the Western powers? Why don't you have a problem with the fact that since 21 they have the Patriot Act in the US, where people are sitting in Guantanamo imprisoned, which infringes the private lives of the people so much more than in Turkey? The US are being democratic and we are not. And why don't you, as a French person, don't have a problem with the state of exception in France, which has been ongoing for 2 years longer than in Turkey since the terror attacks in France? What kind of idea of democracy do you have? Is that the idea of democracy which the US wanted to bring to the Iraq with 1.5 million deaths in the war? Holland, which also took part in ethnic cleansing in Bosnia, are they democratic and we aren't? Is that the kind of democracy which is the so-called only democracy? Israel in the Middle East, which year by year is doing with the Palestinians in Gaza. So Israel is democratic and we aren't. Turkey has left this kind of democracy behind itself. In the old Turkey, Kurds were not allowed to talk, or these Alevites were not able to exercise their religion. Erdogan and the AKP has put an end to that in the name of democracy and humanism. Unfortunately, the mass media are just feeding you raw information. Keep in power. More humanitarian aid than the whole European Union. The Turkey, which you call undemocratic, has taken up 4 million refugees, 5 times more than all of the European Union. With Turkey is building bridges where the Western democracies are building barbed wire. So don't only talk in order to talk.